Hey, we're going to skip the preamble and get back into the video. This should be the next to the last video. So, hope you enjoy it. Let's continue on.
Yeah. Now, would you consider talking about how starting to go to church? Would you say that the falling out with your daughter was that rock bottom?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that what drove you to church? You think?
Well, yes, because I knew that. I mean, I knew that my life was spent being angry at religion, and I was starting to see that's not the same. You know, that being angry. Maybe in some people's eyes, I was angry at God, but it took all these steps. That step was rock bottom. It was, if I talked to a counselor, which I'd already been doing some, that's one thing. If I go see a doctor, they're going to put me on drugs.
Yeah.
It's not going to fix anything. And it was God doing it. You know, I mean, there's just no other way to. I mean, hanging out with Gene was good because he was Jewish and he converted to a Christian years ago. I don't know how many years, 15, 16 years ago, maybe more. I don't really remember. He told me, but
is that considered anti-Semitic?
But I mean, you know, being around him was good support.
I'm being facetious.
It was just the time. I mean, it was the time. That was the rock bottom. You would think it would have been bad enough being in solitary and going through all that.
That was all just breaking you, though.
Yeah, that's it. I think and you know, like the stress level it was off the chart. Took a toll on my relationship with my girlfriend and everything, and it was when I think the J6ers, besides our president, have gone through possibly the worst political persecution, probably the worst political persecution in the history of the country. And
he doesn't know about Abraham Lincoln's run as president then. Yikes. I'm not saying what they went through wasn't bad, but know your history.
The damage that's done is some of it's never going to be repaired.
Yep.
You know, and it doesn't matter if we win a lawsuit against the federal government for all the abuses of our rights. I mean, that's money, man. That's not going to get back.
That's not going to get back morals. It's not going to get back. Yep.
You know, you're not going to get your reputation back. You're not going to get your. You know, some people died. Some people killed themselves, man. You know, because of the pressure, and you know, there's a group out there called Look Ahead America that reached out to me through my attorneys and has been helping J6ers all along. And they sent me an awesome email, and it's just they're helping people get homes and jobs and trying to get them back on their feet. So, but it's been really hard, man. I mean, but some other guys had it a lot harder, and I could see it when I was in there in D.C. Man, the people that had to rely on the local council, you know, I mean, I had a good attorney. I was fortunate that I had the income, but you know, they were getting. You could tell these people that their public defenders hated us. You know what I mean? They were getting nothing, and I mean, people were stuck in that place without ever being charged. Like it's just horrible what went on. Like the stories and the truth is going to come out. I expect there's going to be a lot of books, but I think many of the people that were in there were Christians anyway. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I know that, at least on my cell block, there were. That also helped me come around to it because there was a lot of love there amongst us. You know, it was a relief to me after being in the hellholes that I was at to be, if I'm going to be locked up, these are the guys I want to be locked up with, you know. So, but I just hope that as bad as it is, that all of us are going to be able to find the peace and strength in Christ. That's where it's at. It's the only place you're going to get it. It's the only way you're going to get any peace. There is no medication that's going to help this. It doesn't. Money's not going to help it. Mm-hmm. Only Jesus can help this.
Money's not going to help. Yeah, money is going to help it. Medicine's going to help it. What I think he means is Jesus can cure it. But no. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted there. My bad.
Did you finally realize that Jon Schaffer can't do this and cry out to Jesus to save you from your sin?
When I broke my daughter's heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when.
So that's the moment. That was the rock bottom that needed to happen to.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Well, you know, I don't want to go too much into that. It was a very stressful period for her too, and
without getting too personal on that, you want to get into the comfort that you found or the answer that you found in Jesus?
Well, the biggest thing is that if you can be at peace through something like this, which took me a long time to get to, but by the time sentencing came, I was really, whatever happens, happens.
Yep.
You know, it went on so long, and it was like every 3 months, we're kicking it back, the next quarter. It's like losing my mind, you know, because.
And honestly, what that is, we know what that is. We know that the narrative was collapsing. Especially in the last year, the narrative had completely collapsed. The only people who believed it are the people that you could have given them every piece of evidence that it was contrived, and they would have ignored it. There was a horror that Donald Trump was actually going to win. There was an absolute horror that Donald Trump was going to win. They were terrified. The Epstein files, JFK, 9/11, all of it. If that juggernaut, this guy we've tried to put in jail for 4 years, gets in, we are officially screwed. And they kept pushing it back because, my God, because I guarantee you, if Kamala would have gotten elected, if she would have been elected president, John would be in jail right now. There's no doubt in my mind. Him and every other J6er they could have thrown to the wolves, they most certainly would have.
The next quarter. It's like losing my mind, you know, because you can't, and I'm a planner.
You can't move.
I always was like, I'm a guy, and I don't know what to do. This is all foreign to me.
You can't move on.
Like when I first met your dad, he said, if you start doing music again, are you going to use it for him? Mm-hmm. He gave you that gift. You know that, right? And through it, it's like the lid closed on my creativity. Like, and I know it's a season, and I don't know if that's what God wants me to do going forward. I don't know. I mean, I'm going with the flow, but there was a lot of truth in that statement, because it's like, no, this is a crucible. There's something. This is happening for a reason, and I, looking back at my life, and there's a reason. I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but I know that the peace process came as my faith grew, as I became more confident in my faith, and knowing this is real, man. It's happening. And the funny thing, like, I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but looking through my life, thinking back of the experiences, all of it, and it's just right there the whole time. Like, you can see that he was trying to get my attention the whole time.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so mind-blowing. And it's just like, so I had to be broken. Yeah. Because he's like, you're not going to get it any other way. Obviously, dude, you know.
Oh my God. All right. So here's another problem with going to church and this music thing. I got into heavy metal in the early 80s, and that's when metal was becoming metal. You know, Judas Priest had been out for a while, Sabbath had been out for a while, and everybody's breaking. Deep Purple gets back together, Ronnie James Dio, then you're getting Metallica, Slayer, Queensryche, Fate's Warning, Halloween. Everything's breaking in the 80s. And what they said at church, well, Lucifer was the leader of God's choir. Lucifer was in charge of the music, and now we see Lucifer's hand in this modern day music. And that was the thought of it. There was a story told that Led Zeppelin had been working on the music for Stairway to Heaven for a week, and then Robert Plant came in, heard the music, had a stream of consciousness, and wrote the lyrics in like a few minutes. And they were like, that's Lucifer's hand at work, making a mockery of the Stairway to Heaven. I mean, it's just, that's how they work. But then if the music is positive, if you're doing something with the music, well, then it's a gift from God. So your musical ability is a gift from God. And if you're praising God, he gave you that gift. But if you're not praising God, well, then it's Lucifer doing it. Again, it's that thing I said earlier. He gets all the accolades, none of the blame. Batshit crazy.
Yeah. Because he's like, you're not going to get it any other way. Obviously, dude, you know.
I know. So, solitary. I know.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. And then, you know, the whole, it's just a lot of irony in this, but the most important thing, well, I put my career first, but in reality, the most important thing in my life was my daughter, and that's how I paid the bills. That's how I took care of the family. But it did become, it was not a healthy balance. It did a lot of damage, and there's a lot of resentment there, and deservedly so. I mean, it's tough being in the middle leagues in the music business. If you're an arena act in every city around the world, you can actually afford, you have the budget to get a bus for your family and get tutors, and you can do that. But that takes like next level, and we weren't at that level. And if I would have done that kind of stuff, there wouldn't have been anything to pay for the homestead at home. So it's like, you know, I tried to include her on tours, and when my ex-wife and I were married, we, you know, they came on tour sometimes, different places, but it couldn't be all the time, because that's just eats at your bottom line, every single thing you do.
Yeah.
That's why I hate days off. I don't like days off on tour, because all the expenses are still there, but there's no money coming in.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of people getting paid for Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
You know?
It's almost like paid time off. It's kind of,
Yeah. So it's, yeah. But that's what that was the final thing, because I don't know, man. I had become a very hard person. Always fair, though. Very fair with my people, and very straight with my people. My guys that worked for me in the band or in the crew. You know, I didn't play games. Everybody got paid.
I think Tim Owens would disagree with that he was always fair and kind of upfront and stuff. I don't see that.
You know, I didn't play games. Everybody got paid. That was never an issue, but I was hard.
yeah.
Tough but fair, but very tough. Very tough. And it's survival. I mean, it's business.
Yeah.
And that's what you turn into, but it did get the priorities should have, in my desire to protect her from the evil that I wasn't even aware of, actually how evil it was back then. I caused damage. And I know that, I just know in my heart, man, that if I would have allowed God to come into my life a lot sooner, that my family would be together. I know it.
Yeah.
He's really good at justifying behavior, justifying bad behavior. And if God would have come into his life, his family would still be together. I don't know. I have a problem with that. Again, not taking responsibility. That's exactly what it sounds like to me, but if you're a Christian, you probably see it differently.
Yeah.
I know it. And that sucks.
Yeah.
It's the way it is, though. I mean, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But it would have changed my perspective so much. So anyway, you know what? Hopefully she forgives me someday, and I've grown a lot. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
As bad as it's been, I wouldn't change it, because this is a gift. It really is. And I know people are going to think that's crazy, but this process has been a gift. It's a gift of salvation. It's the gift of knowing I've felt like I was on the right side of history and all that stuff anyway, for years. But that pales in comparison to being in a relationship with Christ.
Absolutely.
And having that empty hole is gone. Like, it's gone. There's nothing that can fill it. There's nothing in this world that can fill that. There's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, that's exciting to hear, because I know what you mean. It's you can't explain it. It's a piece that you can't explain. It really is. I know it sounds cliche to say that, but I know you know it, so it resonates with Christians.
Yeah. Well, I hope it resonates with people that are out there and suffering and struggling, because there's a solution. But
The final
you got to
solution.
open.
Just kidding.
You got to open your heart and try to break out of all the devices and the things that are there to disconnect you from your God, who loves you very much, more than you could possibly imagine. And it's just evil. It's just evil.
Yeah.
So we got to fight the evil, man. And I'm not.
He loves you so much that you have to figure out how to come to him. He loves you that much.
And I'm not going to be fighting the evil in the ways that I used to. It's going to be in a different way.
Yeah.
Might even get me in more trouble someday. We'll see. But it's trouble I'm willing to face.
I know the whole path.
I'm sure John meant fighting the evil as in spiritual warfare. I'm sure he's not referring to January 6th. It could get him in more trouble. So what does that mean? Religious persecution, because these people always believe that they're being persecuted. Just like every other self-aggrandizing group, BLM, Antifa, LGBTQ, Christianity, Muslims, we're all being persecuted. Good God. Apparently everybody's being persecuted except for the secular people who are just looking out and taking care of themselves. Apparently they're not being persecuted until you actually look at the statistics. But yeah, I hope that's not misconstrued what John said. I'm sure he meant through, whatever means he means he's going to be fighting the evil as related to good versus evil in Christianity.
Path of following Christ and submitting to Him isn't an easy process by any means, but it is simple.
It is simple.
That's the thing. It's literally, I know the church has tried to do everything they can just to make it as easily shareable as possible. I mean, Christ has already done that. All you have to do is admit you're a sinner, believe that Christ died for you on the cross, and that He defeated death by raising you again on the third day, and then confess your sins to Him and put your faith and trust in Him. It's like being I was a lifeguard in high school, and it's a great picture of that is somebody drowning. They can't do anything to save themselves. All they have to do is cry out for help. The lifeguard does all the work.
Yeah.
They jump in and they drag them out. They do the CPR, like they're already dead, and they bring them back. It's all we have to do is admit, realize I'm a sinner and I can't do this on my own. I'm gonna die and go to hell, and then just cry out to God to save you, and He will. He gives us free will, which as Americans we can appreciate that freedom, and He doesn't make anybody go a certain way, which I think is got to be hard. Being a father now, giving that freedom's got to be super hard, especially to God, the creator of the world, to give that freedom to His creation of, you can follow me or not. I don't want a bunch of...
That's a weird thing. You can follow me or not. So growing up in the church, and this is told at a lot of churches, I actually asked a theologian about this, that we're talking about God is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. So omnipotent. He has almighty power, the beginning and the end. He knows everything that's ever going to happen, everything that has ever happened. Omnipresent, that He's constantly with us, and it's like God is everywhere. Omniscient, to know everything. So that being said, that means that before I was ever born, God knows if I'm going to go to hell or not. Keep that in mind. If God is omnipotent and knows everything that will happen and has ever happened, that means He will create a child knowing that child is going to be kidnapped and raped and tortured and murdered. And we're good with that. And you have free will to choose God, but God already knows if you're going to choose Him or not. Is it going to be a surprise to God? No, it's not. Because there is no way any Christian is going to allow God not to know something. He knows everything. And if you don't understand it, that's because it's part of God's plan, and we are too insignificant to know God's plan. This is the bullshit that kicked me out of the church, that keeps me away from it. Because of this. This is asinine. And they're talking about it like it makes all the sense in the world. It's absolutely insane. God knows already, based on what every Christian church says, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. God already knows if you're going to hell or not. And when I asked a theologian, a literal theologian, well, if He already knows I'm going to hell and He creates me to go to hell, then what is the purpose? And he says, to understand why you made the choice you made. Are you telling me that God created me just so I can understand why I'm burning in hell for all eternity? Why make me at all? Or is it that God doesn't know what you're going to do? Because if you actually have free will, He can't possibly know what you're going to do. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And they say it like it's supposed to make perfect sense.
Slaves that just follow me because they have to. This is your decision.
Yeah, it's
your decision, not God's. Your decision.
It's an incredible level of tough love and
tough love. good God, the
true love. Yeah.
It's
true love and tough love. The amount of cognitive dissonance. I'll try. I know. I got to stop interrupting. I got to let it finish. But you can watch the interview. This is part of my commentary. This is the frustrating thing that John, soft Christians is what a lot of Americans are. Like you're by default apple pie baseball Christianity in the United States. But adopting this ideology and philosophy, it's almost like they do not challenge themselves to think it through. It is frustrating. You can have a relationship with Jesus. You can have a relationship with God without adopting all this thing all these ideologies and philosophies that shirk responsibility. You can do that. And as a matter of fact, shirking all this responsibility is antithetical to what they're saying. But they don't see themselves as shirking responsibility. They'll convince themselves of it. Everything that I'm saying here, any Christian will come back and combat me, and they'll spin themselves in this little circular logic, because cognitive dissonance and critical thinking's got to go. Cognitive dissonance is a belief. They have to instill that to believe what they're going to believe. This shit is frustrating. And it kills me that someone who's as seemingly intelligent as Jon Schaffer is falling for this garbage.
The first step, I think, a lot of people are in different stages of awakening right now. And, I thought I was awake for all these years. But truly being awake is having that relationship with Christ. And that's the end. That's the end game part of it. It's the end and the beginning. It's both. It's like the end of it's the old and then the new. So it's a trip. I mean, it's just a trip. The whole thing is, man.
Did you find once you submitted to Christ that you had more? Your anger kind of disappeared towards the enemy. The enemy's still there, and they're just as evil, if not, like, you realize how evil they are on a different level. Did you just feel like you had more of an understanding of realizing at this point, like, I know for me, like, I had this realization after the fact, like, this is a spiritual warfare. Like, I'm not holding it against one individual anymore now, because I realize
after the
power
fact
behind this literally is Satan.
Yeah, I think I've definitely become, I want to see justice done to people that hurt children.
Absolutely.
That's like the biggest thing for me. And
don't need to believe in God for
all
that.
All of the evil, all of the corruption. But
you can believe in God.
His job, man.
And you can believe in God and do that. So I don't want to slam this whole idea of Christianity. It is this aspect of Christianity, this whitewashing, spiritual bullshit, Christ follower garbage. If you're a Christ follower, that means Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John. Those are the only 4 books that Jesus ever speaks in. The red letter, remember the red letter editions growing up? Those are the only time he ever talked. If you're a Christ follower, you're following that. But to follow those 4 books, you do need the Old Testament, because you need the prophecies to verify who Jesus is, that Jesus is the Son of God. You need the philosophies of the Old. You need to see the difference between God before he gave Jesus his Son, and God after. You see a more forgiving God. You need that. And so this whole Christ follower stuff, because Christ follower, I mean, in Matthew 5:18, Jesus talks about how not a tittle, not a jot shall be changed under heaven till all has been achieved with the law. The law, the Pentateuch, the 613 commandments of the Old Testament, and the first 5 books of the Old Testament. This Christ follower garbage is dangerous to Christianity. It is dangerous. They say they follow the Bible, but they don't follow the Bible. They're cafeteria Christians. They pick and choose what looks good and feels good and won't interfere with their golf game on Saturday. That's where my frustration lies. It's not having a relationship with God. It's not having a relationship with Jesus. It is this cherry-picking cafeteria Christianity that I find bothersome.